Welcome back to another Reading and Correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 61 of Stepping Wild. Tibs transcribed another song, this one telling of villagers vanishing into a dark forest of madness where monster reigned. It joined others he transcribed, one about a brave adventurer fighting monster through a forest of madness to rescue his love. Another involved an epic battle against dungeon maze of monsters in a dark forest. Not that the song ever mentioned the dungeon. He couldn't know if there were any truth to them. Bards had sung them after all. But they had one thing in common. They all originated in the kingdom of Erfitar, which was where the region that had been mentioned in another book was located. Not having anything else to go on for the search into dungeons the guild didn't know about, he'd looked over at He'd looked at tomes of census, hoping something in those records would hint at where he might find one. He had no idea why scholars went around asking for birth and death and how the people had died, but for as long as he'd been reading in libraries, he'd been he'd seen those tomes. And some of them were ancient. He'd hoped that there would be something in the how people died that would give him a direction to search. Instead, what pointed him as Herfitar was a comment in the margin of one such tome. Why does the Ashimeter region have so many more vanishing than elsewhere? The tome hadn't discussed vanishing, just birth, death, and how they had happened, so the note had to have been left by another scholar looking through the tome, maybe searching for answers about what that in how people had died, and not finding it. Okay. The tome hadn't discussed vanishing, just birth and death, and how they had happened. So the note had to have been left by another scholar looking through the tome, maybe searching for answers about how people had died and not finding it, had written his frustration. Looking into the region gave him the kingdom and almost immediately a song for the love of danger. He'd looked it over and dismissed it as another example of bards making up whatever they wanted. He dismissed the second one for much the same reason when he came across it in a book a caravan master had written on the kingdom's roads. When he found a third one, this one in a herbalist's short work on the plants of Ashimeter and their use in maintaining the body's essence, something nagged at him. The fourth was in a report from a guard and a side recounting a stop at a tavern at the side at the side at the side at the side a tavern at the side of a tavern beside a forest. By then, Tibbs had a sense of the kingdom and was confident that forest was within Ashimeter, and the untitled song recounting a hunt that took great that recounting a hunt that woke a great beast in the dark forest. And he realized each song had been about or taken place within a forest. Then he hunted down the bard who had written them. No longer the arduous task. He'd envisioned such search to be when he was younger. Scholars loved collecting songs, then talking about what they meant if they spoke the truth instead of flight of fancies. His first surprise had been that in spite of the similarities, the three songs he was able to find the original singer for hadn't been sung by the same person. Three, possibly four bards had sung about events taking place in the same area and using similar descriptive. The forest was dark or maddening or oppressive. The creature was large or massive or lumbering. The hero of the song never emerged intact. Bards made up their song, but if many of them at best, as best as he could find, different times included similar details about a location in the same region, could their inspiration could their inspiration have been the same event or multiple events following similar patterns? A tome about the kingdom had included maps of varying region, including I'd included you know what, I don't need included here. A tome about the kingdom had maps of varying region, including a scimitar. It predated the oldest song by at least a century, showing it was mainly forested, with villages dotted the edge and one town. The few comments related to the wood trade there. Nothing about monsters or vanishing, but things changed in a century. Erfitar was three kingdoms zenithward. Only a few days away from that house. Wait. Only a few days away from that house, and the insistent coming and going of nobles, and he now had a possibility months away instead of years. Lord Tiran's presence was requested at the start of each one, but he made his boredom at the business discussion obvious, so that when he walked away, hardly anyone noticed. The one time the noble had asked him, he'd replied that all this talk tired him out and he was going to rest. From there, leaving was simple. If he didn't feel like running the roof, he changed into servant's clothing and mixed with the others before leaving. No one even noticed the extra servant. He looked over the songs, noting the common details. The one thing none of them included were directions to where the adventures took place. The one time he decided to rely on a bard song, and they couldn't be bothered to sing about the route the hero had taken. He put them away, then returned to the books where they belonged. He'd have more days to peer over them for clues in the wording, possibly more time to look through other books, although he was running out of that. This morning, Sintod told him that while discussing potential investment with Lord Firbrand, the noble had let slip his intention to host the gathering that would officially present the Holomir to the city's nobles, which meant Tibs now had information to gather in a more straightforward way. The Firebrand's house sat at the center of a green space dotted with colors and narrow paths going from it to the three entrances to their land from the road, each guarded. A fourth led to the carriage house, which was built within the wall so that the horse never had to sully the oh so pristine grass. 10 houses? 15? How many common folks could be housed if these nobles didn't need to surround themselves with so much greenery? He doubted that they'd ever considered the added difficulty this gave any thief who wanted to reach their roof. They looked at the nearly uninterrupted line of sight from the guardhouse to the house, from the guards at the house to the wall, and had been satisfied that whoever needed to suffer for their comfort didn't matter. Of course, that added difficulty only counted when dealing with thieves who didn't have an element. The proper application of essence tended to simplify nearly everything. He channeled air and sent Disk ahead of him. A series of leaps, and he was on the roof. He couldn't enter through either balcony door because of the weave over them, but none of the windows had them. Of course, unlike the balcony, a thief couldn't simply drop onto it and then deal with how to enter. They needed to climb down. The wall was made of large stone, and they were set close enough together they hardly had space to lodge piton into unless the thief was unusually strong or had an element. But then, if they had earth, it would be easy. Until they reached the window's ledge, would they know? Uh, but, let's put that here. But then if they had earth, it would be easy until they reached the window's ledge. Would they know to temper the strength they'd built to reach it? Wood was easy to crush, and that would cause them to fall. Not that Tibs would have that problem. It was. It was wood. He'd be able to tell exactly how hard to hold on to keep it from breaking. At best, if he wanted to make it easy on him, he could make a disc out of air and lower himself to the window and make a ladder out of ice or metal or wood or stone. He had so many options when it came to easy that it had grown boring. There were times when he needed to use the easy way. Tonight wasn't such a time. He was a runner. He enjoyed the challenge. He grabbed onto the roof ledge and lowered himself. His feet weren't even close to the window, not that it would help. What he needed was to grab the sill under the window, and he'd only do that by climbing down. He fought the urge to channel stone as he placed his fingers into a gap and lowered himself. It hurt, but it was the kind of pain that came from working hard, and Tibs enjoyed that kind of. His fingers slipped, and he slid down. He seized the window sill and channeled wool just before passing it and grabbed it. And it held him. He chuckled, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. That's good, he told the wood, petting it. It was good indeed. Strong and resilient. It was a shame it hadn't cut down so some noble could make a windowsill out of it. It should have been allowed to continue to growing, reach for the sun, spread its branches. It could still do that, he realized. He could help it grow again, return it to the magnificent being it had once been. They shook Wood's lingering influence out. He'd have to make time to practice again. He'd expected to be better at ignoring it. The bedroom was empty. It was early for nobles. The metal shim slipped between the window and the frame and pushed the latch. Then he entered. An etching of purity took care of his shoulder, then papers and charcoal in hand, he set about mapping the house for his team. Jelly motioned to the papers Tibs arranged on the table to recreate the floor plan of the house. Explain why you didn't just take their money if you were already there. Because I couldn't take all of it. He looked at the fighter. Even you'll have trouble carrying carrying it all. Which is why we're dividing it among us, Uzuma said, and Tibs was surprised at the lack of accusation in the tone. It seemed he'd been wrong. The archer had gotten over his suspicions of him. Did you get the bags? Sinta asked. From the stone seller, Uzuma replied. The ones they put on a horse. The one they put on horses. I tested the leather and the seams, Charlie added. We can fill them with until the leather stretches and they will hold. There's a motion to the paper. The firebrand's house has 5 floors and a cellar, which hides the safe. If there are guards by the entrance, Usama said, they won't be able to leave their post, even if the house is burning down around them. That comment was good for a few laughs, Charlie said, from everyone else there. He tapped the outside doors. They have 2 at each one, and if they need to carry a message to the lord or lady, only one of them can go. Same with the guards at the gates and carriage house. There will be 2 other guards somewhere in the yard. We can't pay them to ignore what we'll be doing. The Fairbrand are harsh masters, but they understand the power of money. That's okay. Sinta said, I will be led to the cellar by the lord of the house himself. And of course, I would never go somewhere with only a man I can't really trust yet. But not at least one of my guards, she smiled. After all, who would protect me from whatever his intentions are? Tibs tapped the room on the 3rd floor. The lady's office is Fleetfinger's target. Once Sinta has been convinced by the lord she needs to see his cellar, I'll excuse myself. I've done it enough during those abyss meetings of yours that no one will question it. I've already hidden his costume, and I'm used to changing in a hurry. Charlie, you won't be able to miss the noise I'll make, even down there. You need to subdue the Lord and his guard without anyone outside the room noticing. Zoma, when he gives a signal, you need to clear the way to the exit. Avoid killing if you can, but you need to make your escape the priority. Cinta, how about this household? As soon as Gerald loses sight of us, he'll dismiss the servant with added pay. The theater folk will empty the house. By the time anyone's able to check, there will be nothing left in it. And as they look into everything we've claimed, Tibs added, all they'll find is that none of it was real. Isn't this putting the servants in danger? Uzuma asked. Nobles tend to lash out when angry. How are they going to find any of them? Charlie replied. It's not like nobles ask for name when it comes to the servants. And none of them are remarkable, Cinta added. As far as they're concerned, it was honest employment. Of those in the house, Gerald is the only one who knows more, but as soon as the last of the servants has left, last of the servants have left, he'll be nothing more than another actor at a scorned theater. 5 days, he looked at his team. In 5 days, you'll have more coins than you'll ever dream of having, and we will have ruined one of the highest nobles in the city. And that concludes chapter 61 of Stepping Wild. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it's up for free on Royal Road. If you want to read ahead of that and support me in the process, that is on Ream Story. And if you are looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.